Scale, exit, repeat.
Power of positive words can change your life and business. Let me be clear. The power of positive words can change your life and business. And it did for me. It did for me years ago when maybe 20 years ago, running a publicly traded company, and we brought a speaker in named George Walter, and he taught us something called Power Talk. And since then, I've changed my life because I learned how to speak positively and use positive words, which, by the way, reinforces in your own brain positive thoughts. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about the power words, the words that you can use, the methodologies you can use to have a positive projection, a positive way of living. This is not only mental, this is even healthy. This is actually something that can really make a big difference in your life from a success standpoint to actually even a relationship standpoint. This isn't just about making money. This is everything when it comes to life. There is something called The Secret. Many of you may have read that book, right? Have you read that book, Michael?
Come on, Colin. This is loaded bunkum. This is loaded garbage. As if positive words could do anything. Really? Seriously.
Exactly.
The reality is the reality, okay? We just need to face reality as entrepreneurs. And
I love it, Michael. I love the anti side of this one. Because you've gone into I was there about a week ago. I was pulling up to a valet and he came running out. He was so excited. As if he knew me. I don't think he actually did, by the way, but let's just run with it. It was with my wife and he's like high-fiving me and, hey, it's nice to see you back and everything. And usually you give, this was at the airport, and usually you give a tip at the end of the, when you come back and you leave the valet. You don't normally give them when you pull in. And I was so impressed with this guy. Like I gave him like $20. And I'm thinking, good things happen to good people. Good energy happens to good energy. And it starts with the way we word things. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's in the book, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. The Power Talk, how you can change your life by a few words. By the way, there was a reason why we came up with this topic, Michael, because tomorrow we have the masterclass newsletter coming out again at noon tomorrow. And the main topic is words that can change your life. Words that can change your life.
That's
Michael,
right.
you've probably a couple of examples in your own life where you heard people, where you've been impressed with customer service, or you've been impressed with something, just threw you off. And you're like, wow. And you probably gave that person more money, more tips. And then that person becomes more wealthy and it becomes a cycle. It's a cycle of success that you can build on it. And that's the same way with startups, with founders, with businesses, with your employees as well.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. When I saw this topic, and I you set the topic, and it caused me to really stop and think, what is it that I do, and how does that impact the people around me? And I'm a firm believer, in, despite what I said before, I'm a firm believer that you've got to realize that whatever muscle you go and exercise, that's in the case of your brain and everything else, that's what you're going to become. So if you decide you're going to be negative and you're going to decide you're going to pour negativity out on your team, guess what? You're exercising negativity and you're doomed to failure. On the other hand, if you say, okay, I'm going to be positive, I'm going to go ahead and yes, face reality and all those sort of things, but I'm going to be positive. There's always a way. So one of my positive affirmations, Colin, is there's no problem too great for creative thinking. There's no problem too great for creative thinking. Yeah, and sometimes you just need to view problems,
especially in an AI world, right?
Yeah, it's exactly right. Yeah. So anyway, so you're listening to The Complete Entrepreneur, and my name is Michael Gilmour, and I'm from down under in Melbourne, Australia. And Colin is the esteemed author, Colin Campbell, of Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. If you haven't bought his book, then really you're behind the eight ball, because it's just, correct me if I'm wrong, Colin, it's got 39 awards right now.
40, but who's counting?
40 awards now. So go to Amazon, look up Colin Campbell, look up Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, and just buy the book, because you'll be one of the few entrepreneurs that hasn't done that yet. It's becoming like the Bible of entrepreneurship. Not only that, there's a few workbooks as well, which would be great to be able to get for your team and things like that, and work through what that actually means to start, scale, exit, and repeat. But we're taking a look at that topic today, Colin, which is the power of positive words can change your life and business. And I've said this a number of times on the show, and that is, nothing in society has been changed by the pessimist. It's always been changed by the optimist. So if you look all around you, wherever you're sitting, wherever you're standing, if you're in your car, whatever it is, that all those things around you were changed by optimists. Someone said, I can make that better. I can make this desk better. I can make that screen better. I can make this phone better. I can do something better. It's an optimistic view of life. It's an optimistic view. It's positive affirmations are going out and saying, I can do better. Nothing around you has been created by a pessimist, where someone says, oh, we're doomed. We're absolutely doomed. There's no chance whatsoever. Oh, we can't do anything. Really and truly. Oh, I wish I had a better team. Oh, my team is hopeless. Oh, I wish I'd done an MBA. I really don't have enough education to be able to run a business. I wish I did a business degree, so I've only done an arts degree, or I didn't even finish high school. I'm doomed. Really? You keep on talking like that, you will become it. And this is the thing we wanted to unpack today, Colin. And we would love to have some people up here on stage. By the way, if you're in the room, put your hand up. We'd love to have you up here and just give your thoughts on this topic. It's such an important one because it's the basis of every single entrepreneurial activity. Starts with how you think. It always starts with that idea, that blinding flash of brilliance. It always starts there. Yeah, so it is so critical for entrepreneurs to actually be able to get their minds around this. So if you're in the audience, I'd love to be able to come up on stage, put your hand up. We'd love to have you up here. And if you're on podcast, leave us a comment. And for all of you who are on podcast or in the audience, whatever you do, go to startup.club and sign up for that newsletter, because it's once a month. You're not going to get spammed, and it's full of awesome stuff. It really is. Go ahead and do that. So, Colin, positive affirmations, positive words, are they really that important?
And Michael, let me tell you my personal story here. I saw the speaker about 25 years ago, and he was very powerful. And he was so powerful that I brought him in my first company, second company, third company. And what he talked about were these certain key phrases. You can literally replace them. And by doing so, you actually help improve your own thought process. So when you start speaking positively, you actually become more positive. His point is, when you get a lot of these speakers are raw, you got to be more positive, be more optimistic, blah, blah, blah. Emotionally, it works for 2 hours. Okay. But the power of positive words works for your lifetime. And it actually changes who you are as an individual. And let me give you one example right now. I think probably one of my favorite ones is, I'll have to do that, Michael. Michael, I'll have to get back to you. How'd you feel with that, Michael? I have to get back to you.
Yes, you do, Colin. So please get back.
Or how about this, Michael?
Wednesday or Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Or how about this, Michael? I'll be happy to get back to you. And you know what? I'll be happy to get back to you by Tuesday. Oh, I have to get back to you by Tuesday. Do you see the difference there? And even, by the way, just I say it, my tonation just changes. Because naturally, my brain is saying, oh, I want to be positive. So when you change the words that you use on a day-to-day basis, or you teach your team to change the words, or by the way, you teach your AI or your AI agents to change the words, it's okay. We talked about that today, Michelle and I, but how we're going to do that with our customer service and use power talking within the customer service side of the company as well. So we change your words. That's another thing as well. So the words can actually impact your brain and impact your mood and impact a lot of things, even though it may seem almost artificial at when you started out, it actually becomes very real. Do you see where I'm going with this, Michael?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Colin, on that. I think that the key thing is this, for me anyway, is be positive, not for what you can get out of it, but for what you can contribute to it. In other words, how can you positively impact those people around you, whether it's your team, your family, friends, whatever it is? Be positive, not because then they're going to give me something, or then I'm going to be able to get this, then I can ask them to do something else. That's very Machiavellian. To me, it's be positive simply because it's a better way of life. And you know what? Things will happen, but you're not doing it with the motivation. It's a bit like I've always hated the term networking. Network is making friends, not making friends. It's all about, I'm going to talk to you to see what I can get out of you. I hate networking. But on the other hand, if you take the attitude of how can I help that person, it's a very positive outlook, but it's not what can I get, it's what can I give, which is very different. That's my view, Colin. It's how can you not influence those people around you in a positive way so you can get from them, but it's influenced in a positive way because it's a better way of life. And I remember I had my daughter, one of my daughters actually came with me to a conference a number of years ago. And she said to me, "So who are we going to be selling to, Dad?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You've got all these meetings booked up," and she was going to attend the meetings and everything. And I said, "So who are you going to sell to?" I said, "I'm not." And she, "Well, I don't understand." I said, "I'm going to listen. And if we can help those people, they will help them. And that may sometimes mean pointing them in a direction other than what we do." And she went, "Oh." I said, the end result was the people we were influencing in those meetings and things like that began to ask about what we did, and we could explain it. We got a lot of business from it, but it was a very different mindset, Colin. It was more of a positive mindset of how can I positively influence those people and help them out versus the hard sort of used car salesman coming in and hammering away. I think that the car salesman approach works for a time and works for certain circumstances. But ultimately, if you want to develop a long-standing and long-lasting business, then you have to develop trust. In order to develop trust, you need to be positive, and the people need to have confidence that you have their best interest at heart. Yeah, so it's all about positivity, Colin.
Yeah. People want to do business with people, right?
That's right. Business
And
is
people
about
they
people.
trust.
It's
I
not
think
about
your trust is probably your number one thing. We can talk about words, but trust is probably
Yeah.
number one thing that you can establish with your customers, with your suppliers, with your vendors, with your investors, with everyone.
Yeah, we had a situation where in my current business, it just happened this week. I literally stepped off the airplane. I said hello to my wife, and then I was in a 2-hour meeting because of massive growth. One of our main databases was like imploding. They just couldn't handle it. And so I went along and I posted a message. So anytime a client logged into our systems, Colin, I posted a message saying, "Sorry about this. Stats are down. We're working away at the problem, and it should be finished at this time." So it's still positive, but I was also transparent. There's another word for you. I was transparent. Hey, we've got a difficulty. We're working on it, and we anticipate it'll be fixed very shortly. But yeah, so being positive doesn't mean you need to ignore reality. Yeah, that was the problem with the whole positive thinking movement, where as long as I affirm it, then I'll become it. Yeah, I think that's a load of bunkum. I think you need to face reality, but you have a positive mindset to get through whatever the challenge is before you. I'm not sure your thoughts on that, Colin.
Yeah, I think you always have to have a positive mindset. I think I remember From Good to Great, the book with Jim Collins, who wrote that, who said
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
The level 5 leaders are ones who are positive, but have a realistic understanding of what's going on right now, but have a positive way of, an optimistic way of getting out of this or building something. So I think there is an innate optimism there. I want to go back a little bit to your networking, Michael. There's an author who came on here. He was on our show here on Startup Club, but he wrote a book called Nice Bike. And you really, I hate to say it, but you probably don't have to read the book to get the concept. But it's a very simple concept. And his concept was that,
Was that Matt Sharon Broach?
I don't know, I can't remember his name right now. Sorry to put me on the spot. But I'll tell you this, he was a phenomenal speaker. You could look him up on the show on Startup Club and you get the whole show there. But his idea was, he had experience where he was walking out of a restaurant or a bar or something, and there's these very intimidating bikers, like these Harley Davidson, the beards, the whole thing, and they look like they're gonna tear him apart or something like that. And he walks up to him and he says, "Nice bike." And the person just was the softest individual and kindest person who responded and said, "Thank you very much for that," and had with the accent and all that. And he was able to make a real connection. And so he said, if you're walking into a room, a party, or if you want to really connect with people, one of the things that you can do is compliment them on something, but be genuine about it. Okay. So you're walking into a room, Michael, you have the greatest smile I've ever seen and maybe this is still too much. I don't know, maybe going a little too far here right now. But let's say you're in a conference or something like that, and you notice, "Oh, I love your watch. Nice watch." And then they just, all of a sudden, they're deactivated now. They're not like you're selling them anything. You're connecting with them. Or, "Michael, you know what? That shirt is amazing." Oh, whatever it is. You have to be a little bit careful here when it comes to genders as well, like that. You can't say, "Wow," you walk up to someone, "You got a great body." That's in a conference, that's not going to work, to a female or whatever it is. You can always say that to me or Michael. Don't worry about that. But that being said, you got to be careful with this one. But the reality is, you can walk up to someone, you've never seen them before, and offer an authentic, legitimate compliment. That compliment will make a difference. It changes the dynamic of that introduction so that you're no longer just a stranger. You're someone who actually you're somebody who they recognize as understanding you a little bit. And that's a good way to break the ice. It's a good icebreaker, we're calling it here, right? An icebreaker when you're in sort of one of those settings. I'm going to an event tonight with about 200 people, and it's an EO, Entrepreneurs Organization event. And I'm just going to try to mentally now, I'm thinking, should I use that tonight? Maybe I should use that tonight a little bit. But it's got to be authentic. You can't go in there and say, "Nice hair" or something. And the guys, it's got to be real. Okay. When someone introduces their name, "That's a cool name. That's really interesting. I love that name. Where'd that come from?" But it's got to be authentic. So authentic is part of that positive outlook, that positive communication.
Yeah, I agree with you, Colin. I think the other thing is it's being authentic. But one of the most amazing things you can do, which is actually incredibly positive to most people, is to draw a person out in the conversation and just listen to them. Most people are talked at, not listened to. And then just listen to them. And one of the incredible skills that I ended up learning from it wasn't a TED talk, it was a masterclass talk. I'm trying to remember his name. It was Voss, I think. He talked about mirroring. And so let's imagine, Colin, you were sharing something. So if you share something like I was at work and blah, 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 and you said, "At work?" And yeah, I work I've got a company called paw.com, and we sell dog beds. "Oh, really? Dog beds?" "Yeah, we got all sorts of dog beds." "Yeah, and we just released this new dog bed. It's an amazing dog bed because it cools in the summer and it drains any water right through, and it's very easy to clean and all these things. Really easy to clean." "Yeah, we got a patent on this." A patent?" "Yeah, it took us a while to get that patent." You get the idea? All I'm doing is repeating back to you as a question the last few words, what you said. But I'm doing you the amazing honor of listening. I'm listening. And that's the most positive thing you can do with people nowadays. Too many people are talked at, not listened to. And sometimes you sit there and just listen. I actually did this. This was a number of years ago. I was trying to really connect with my two daughters a bit better. Daughters at a certain age, I think they're like late teens at the time. They can be a challenge. For those of you who have daughters around that age, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And so around the dinner table, I just mirrored them. Whatever they said, I just mirrored them. I was just testing that. They had no idea I was doing this. And so they had a dinner. I thanked everyone. Dinner was fabulous. Dinner, thanked my wife and everything. And I went off to my study to do something. And my wife told me later on, they said, both my daughters went, "Oh my gosh, what is with that? It was such a great meal tonight. It was amazing. I felt like I was really connecting with them again." And all this sort of stuff. And it was just because I listened and I drew them out. And there's techniques you can learn to draw people out because they want to tell their story. Colin, I never, years ago, I actually wrote a science fiction book. And on the plane, most of it was written on the plane on my flights around the world and stuff. And so I wrote this book, and I was asked to speak at a science fiction conference. And I talked about the fact that everyone has a story. It's inside them. And one of the things I've learned over the years since delivering that talk was people are sometimes scared to tell this story. And being positive is about how do you draw it out of them. If you can draw a person's story out of them, then let me tell you, they'll remember you forever. They really will. Because people get talked at, they rarely get listened to.
Let me tell you a story then.
Yeah, sure.
So here I am. We have the largest registrar in Colombia, not registrar, hosting company in Colombia in 2005. And we were in a meeting. I got all the execs, I have the president of the company there, all the stuff. And the salesperson goes in and does a pitch. And I'm not listening to the salesperson. That was our salesperson, by the way. I was the CEO. And the salesperson makes the pitch to the Colombian company about the domain and the websites and the prices and everything. I'm listening, and I'm watching their faces. I'm watching the way that they're thinking, and even some of their small comments. They're like basically saying, "You don't understand. We can't pay those prices because we're Colombian." And I picked up on this, and I stopped the meeting, and I said, "Team, I know we've presented this, but I think we've made a major error. What I'm hearing from this team over here, the Colombian buyers," we didn't call them Colombian buyers, but the customers, is that they are saying that they cannot afford them. So we've got to come up with a special plan just for them, just for Colombia." And then oh my gosh, the customer, they were like so impressed with this. And because all of a sudden we made a real connection, because all of a sudden we really listened to them. And when you listen to your customer, that makes all the difference versus just spewing a presentation, a PowerPoint, and just sharing that, right?
So you really listen to them.
Exactly. So that was an example of what you were talking about. Now, I've got some more words to go through too. I want to talk a little bit about more of the positive words and replacing words and certain words you can use in your life in certain circumstances. You'll love this one, Michael.
Yeah.
The power of doing what you say you're going to do. Okay. But exceeding that is even better. Okay. So I'm going to have the quote out by Wednesday at afternoon. Okay. I'm going to do one better here. I'm going to say, I'll have the quote out to you by Wednesday at 4:00, before Wednesday at 4:00. Then I'll deliver the quote at 1:00 on Wednesday. What we want to do in life is make a promise and exceed that promise. And it doesn't cost us anything to do this. And we think the customer wants it fast, and they do. But what they want more than anything else is to believe that they've actually getting something that you committed to on the time that you said you're going to do it. And by the way, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you can't get the quote. Oh, we've had a problem with manufacturing or whatever. So you don't leave it. Hours before, or days before, whenever it is, you send out an email or you send out a phone call and you say, "Look, just so you know, we're working on it, but we have to delay the deadline. I have to move it out 2 days." So you're communicating that there's communication going on around that deadline. This is probably one of the most simplest ideas that we can implement in our life, which is simply under promise and over deliver. Okay. And I know it sounds basic. I know this sounds so basic, but too many times, too many people in our businesses or startups, they do the opposite because they want to please the customer, right? Want to please the customer. We'll have it to you by Tuesday. Okay. And then it's almost impossible to get it. And then by Tuesday comes around and then they're like, and then they're too afraid to tell the customer, whatever it is. And this situation happened en masse with thousands, tens of thousands of people in one of my companies when it was an e-commerce company, and the founder, the gentleman who ran the company, said, "Oh, the products are going to come out at this date," and they never did. They came out 3 months later or 2 months later. It drove the reputation of that company from a 4 or 5 star down to a 1.5 star because of simply over-promising and under-delivering. What we want to do is under-promise and over-deliver. Have you seen that before, Michael?
Yeah. I think, let me rephrase what you just said. Be a person of your word, which means be very careful what you say. Because as you continuously fulfill what you say you will do, and I love the concept there, Colin, of you say you'll have something done by 4:00, but you deliver it earlier. So what you're doing then is
Under promise, over deliver, right? Is that right?
That's exactly what I was after. Under promise, over deliver. And I love that concept because it's at the heart of trust. At the heart of trust. Every time you do that and you consistently do that, you're building greater and greater trust. And let me tell you, when it hits the fan with that client or that partner or something like that, because it always does, by the way, at some stage, something's going to go wrong. And because you've banked into their trust account so consistently for such a long period of time and everything like that, no competitor will get a look in. And if there is a problem, then you're working together on the problem rather than it being a competitive situation. The number of times I've sat down with partners and I've said, we're at the beginning of our relationship. What we want to do is really engage you. We'll share all this information with you. And then let's work on, when there's a problem, we'll work on it together. And it transforms the conversation, Colin. It's a very positive approach. Most people think that the culmination of a relationship is the signing of a contract. They say, got the contract signed, off to the next thing. It's a bit like that. But the reality is, a contract will get torn up in about 2 seconds unless you have the relationship. You've got to have that relationship. And the only way to get that relationship is do exactly what you said, be a person of your word. It's a bit like my chief revenue officer. Yeah, he's an amazing guy. He has a saying, which is, if you're not 2 minutes early or 5 minutes early before a meeting, that means
What you want, bleed?
Yeah. Anyway, so the most important thing is to be on time. You said you'd be there at 8:00, then be there at 8:00. You said you'd deliver something, then deliver it, and so forth like that. And if you can't, for whatever reason, because life happens, then you tell people as soon as you know that fact. So it allows them to go and adjust their processes and things like that around you. You don't leave it to the last minute. For instance, I had a potential partner send me an email 10 minutes before the meeting was supposed to start, which I'd prepared a whole lot of stuff for, that they can't make it and they won't be doing anything till 3:45. I'm like, that is so unprofessional. It's not surprise. I didn't know this meeting was going to happen when we did like 3 weeks ago. To me, that is so unprofessional. I've had situations, Colin, where I've flown from the other side of the world, landed in the city to meet with, say, the partner or the client or something like that. And they called up and they said, "Oh, look, can't meet today. Can we meet next week?" Once again, I think it's unprofessional. You be a person of your word.
Exactly.
But yeah, you be a person of your word, particularly if you've got someone flying from the other side of the world, for goodness sakes. It's just ridiculous. And this one guy, I called him out on it. It was a VC. It wasn't for a region trip, as a past job. I called him out and I said, "No, we're arriving at your offices on that time. We have a scheduled meeting. Are you going to be at the office? Yes, you're going to be at the office. Okay, then we'll see you then. And he was like, oh, I said, we're not even going to be in the same country in a week's time. Yeah. And sometimes you just got to call people out on it. That's another thing. It's not a positivity thing, Colin, but sometimes you have to hold people to their word and remind them that their word actually means something. Because many people have forgotten.
Yeah.
It used to be in years gone by that if you weren't a person of your word, then that was known in society and you wouldn't be able to do anything because you're untrustworthy. You're not worthy of my trust. Yeah. So being positive.
Yeah. So I got another one, Michael. I got another one. You got some, always log in 1 minute early to your conference call. That actually used to be a saying at one of my companies.
Yeah.
Always log in 1 minute early to your Zoom, to your Google Meet, whatever it is. 1 minute early. Why 1 minute early? My gosh, it's 1 minute we're talking about, people here. But more often than not, some software update happens, something happens, and you're now at 101, 102 minutes, you're 2 minutes late. Your customer, your prospect, they're feeling a little bit weird here. Okay, what's going on here? Did I do something wrong? It's not a good feeling. And it doesn't take a lot just to do everything 1 minute early. Just always log in 1 minute early. All right, another one. Michael, you are a phenomenal host and you don't get to the point fast enough. How do you feel between those two sentences?
Pretty devastated, Colin.
I know. You see the difference though between the but? When you say but, you negate everything before it. You're a phenomenal host, but you're a phenomenal host, and I'd like you to get to the point faster. But I'm making this up. Obviously, you are a great host. But I'm trying to ask for an example.
Yeah, no.
Just lay in a sentence to show you if you can just replace but with and, your level of communication with people can go up dramatically. I know it sounds weird, and even sometimes the sentences sound weird a little bit when you do this. And by the way, this becomes habit after a while. I do this all the time. I'll be happy to versus I have to. And versus but. These are things that you just start replacing one at a time in your life, and they make a huge difference. The power of positive talk. People accuse me all the time now of being so positive. I'm like, I'm not really that positive. I just speak positively. I'm actually a pretty negative person. I just speak positively. And probably it does make me a little bit more positive internally. I agree with that. But how did you feel between those two statements?
Oh,
really?
Much better with the second. Much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really think, Colin, when you're talking, there's a difference between an entrepreneur going, you sit on their couch at home and face a reality compared to being in front of your team and things like that. When I'm at home and I'm sitting down and I'm trying to solve some sort of complex problem or whatever, I also have another saying, by the way, fall on your sword. If you've done something wrong, one of the most positive things you can possibly do is to admit it and apologize. And sometimes people say, if you apologize, it's showing weakness. No, it shows strength. It shows strength. It shows strength of integrity. That, you know what? That person, you're telling that person you're talking to, maybe a client or something like that, when you stuff up, you will apologize, make amends, and we'll move on together. That's what you're saying to them.
It costs you nothing to apologize, doesn't it? I'm not saying it shouldn't be authentic. It should come from a real piece, but it's so hard for the human beings to do. For some strange reason, apologizing is one of the hardest things you can do on the planet.
For me, Colin, I've never had problems apologizing to people. If I've wronged someone, by the way, you apologize to someone, it has a twofold benefit. One is it's a benefit for you because by apologizing, you're actually righting a wrong and you feel good about that. But it's a benefit for the other person because they needed to hear that you care for them so much. And that you care for them so much, you're willing to put yourself at their mercy. Essentially, that's what an apology is. And then it's up to them whether they accept it or not. That's in their court.
It also deactivates them, right? Like we were flying in for Vodafone. We heard out the day before that they were really upset about some migration or whatever it was. And they were going to fire us, basically fire us. I had 10 executives around a boardroom at Vodafone. And we walked in there, and I'm the CEO of the company. And I said, first of all, gentlemen and ladies, I'd like to apologize. Pause. See how I paused there? I'd like to
Yeah.
apologize for what's occurred, and we have a plan to address that. But I started with that, I'd like to apologize. And it just deactivated them. It turned into this, they were going to attack us and yell at us and get mad at us too. Okay, these guys understand now. They understand exactly what we went through, and they're working on to fix it. This isn't fake, by the way. This is authentic.
No. But notice what
real.
you said there, Colin. Notice what you said. You said, I would like to apologize. You didn't say, I feel I have to apologize. In other words, you twisted my arm.
I probably should have said, I probably did say, I
apologize.
apologize, not I would like to apologize. So I think that's a mistake too, right?
Yeah, but even apologize. What you're doing is you're putting yourself at their mercy. That's what an apology is all about. It's then incumbent upon them to determine what they're going to do with that apology. But you know what? It does something for your own soul that when you apologize, you have done everything you can do to right that wrong. And you've put yourself at their mercy. And that's a very positive position to be in. It's a very strong position to be in as well. Over the years of business, I tell the story that there's a sales guy we had many years ago. He came to a sales meeting and he goes, guess what? I said, what? He said, I've saved the company $10,000. I said, fantastic. That's great news. So what did you do? How did you do that? And he goes, I told the client this and this. And I said, I'm sorry? I told the client this. I said, yeah, but that's a lie. That's a lie. And he goes, yeah, but I saved $10,000. I said, have you documented the lie? Have you put it in this CRM system? Because we're now all a party to this lie. And we better make sure we're at a conference and you're standing in a group of people that they don't bring it up because the other people will probably realize it was a lie. I said, or you can go back to that client, apologize for them, and we pay the $10,000. Yeah, it's an important thing is sometimes the most important thing, the most positive thing you could do is apologize, but then follow that by and make amends. If you've wronged someone and you just, we have a saying in my home, which is, let's imagine when the kids were younger, they did something wrong. We'd say, the glass is smashed on the floor still. So how are you going to make amends? And that was the saying we would have. Yeah, you've apologized, that's great, but it's still smashed. So the next stage is making amends. And that's even going more positive. Because now you've not only have disarmed the person at the other side by apologizing, you've then said, and we're going to do this for you. And that's what you essentially did with the Vodafone meeting. And which comes down to another thing is, Colin, is you said the truth. You told them the truth. You said, we've messed up. Do you have any idea how people long for the truth? The most positive thing you can say to people is the truth. And they can hear it. It's like a serene silence descends upon the room because they can hear the truth. And there's a really important thing, Colin.
Yeah.
And I think whatever you do is always tell someone the truth. And I've said even to my team or clients, partners, whatever, I said, you can ask me anything. I'll be completely transparent with you. But sometimes if you ask a question I'm not prepared to answer because it's private and confidential, I'll just say I'm not prepared to answer that. And you're just going to have to take that at my word. I said, but you can ask me anything and I'll be transparent. And that's the other part of that is telling the truth and being transparent and
I love
living
that.
a life of that.
Yeah, we have also, Michael, is it So Not Sorry?
We have a show here. It's great to have him on the platform or her on the platform. So we're about to find out. We'd love to get your thoughts on this topic. Welcome to The Complete Entrepreneur.
Thank you guys so much for giving me the space and time. And the one thing I would like to say, based on what you were just talking about, was that I agree that apologies are more a sign of awareness, but the actions we take shortly after are what shows our true character and accountability. So I feel like the apologies show that we're human and it's okay to mess up. It's okay to change terms as long as you're open and human with who you're connecting with. But the moment that we try to backpedal and just apologize but not fix, it ruins our brand, it ruins our reputation, and it shows them we're all talk and we literally are never any type of action.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Absolutely agree with you. And you've got to follow through your talk with action. And with that sort of personal relationship, and you say you apologize and then make amends, or whether it's a business relation, whatever it is, it's humans interacting with humans. And people love to hear the truth. They love to hear to realize the trust that has been developed over time is important to you, that they're important to you. And t- to me, that's the foundation of a business relationship, is to do whatever you can to foster trust and being positive in that. Coming back to this topic, I remember I was accused by a client one time. They accused me of this. You're just such an optimist, Michael. And I said to them, thank you. I just said that. They said, what was that? I said, thank you for saying that, that I'm such an optimist. And they said, yeah, but I said, yeah, continue. Yeah, but you have such an optimistic view of life. I said, what you need to understand is I make a decision to be such. You can make a decision as an entrepreneur to go along and be a pessimist, or you make a decision to be an optimist. Decide which one you'll be. Because when you decide to be an optimist, let me tell you, you bring such a positive change to the world around you, and there's nothing like it. But it is stems from a decision. When you hear what Colin's been saying and talking about sort of his stories like with Vodafone and all that sort of stuff, as an example of saying, giving an apology, is a decision that he's made. There's another one. You've got a great saying. Correct me if I'm wrong, Colin, but it's integrity over money.
That's right.
That is a phenomenal statement, but it's only phenomenal because I know you back it up with action, which is what So was saying. You back it up with action. Yeah, integrity over money. Is that important to you?
Yeah. Yeah. We've fired over that employees who have violated that core value in our companies. It's a personal core value, but it's a core value that goes into all my companies as well. And
I fired that salesperson, by the way, who lied to the client.
yeah, I know. You got to live your core values, and
Yeah,
that's
you
one of
do.
them. And let me give you another one. We're running low on time here, but
Yeah.
I should really try to become a better moderator, Michael. Or sorry, or I will become a better moderator. Which of those two statements makes it? Which do you feel more confident with? Which one do you think is more that you actually believe more? The When you say I should try or I'll try versus I will, they're two different statements. And I want to go back to earlier on in the show where we talked about when you say statements in your life, I'll try versus I will, when you actually make those statements, they actually change your disposition. They actually change who you are, and they actually help you achieve more. When you say, I will deliver this report by this date, people believe that. If I say I'm going to try to deliver this report, people don't believe that. Okay. But I think even yourself, when you say that, you don't believe that. So there's a big difference between those two statements. I'll try versus I will.
Yeah, look, I 100% agree with you. And that's a great example, Colin. It really is. When you said those two statements, I felt like I'll try is I'm underneath whatever the issue is. Well, I will, I'm on top of the issue. That's the sense I had. I will versus I'll try. It's almost like you're scripting yourself for failure with I'll try. well, I will, it means I will get through this issue. And I remember when, like, I speak at different conferences, and some people find speaking at a conference or something like that in front of like hundreds of people, thousands of people, it can be quite nerve wracking. And the answer is yes, it is. And one of the things I say to myself before I go on stage and I script my brain, I say, I respond well under pressure. I respond well under pressure. And I say that over and over again. And so when I get up on the stage, I'm like, I'm ready to go. I respond well under pressure. And that's the other thing. Maybe you're giving a really big presentation or something like that to an executive committee or something. And you say, so I respond well under pressure. And you script your brain like that. And I've been doing that since I was like 15. Whether I'm having to do something really big and important, I always say, I respond well under pressure. And then I find I rest in that. I rest in that positive affirmation and go, what am I worried about? I respond well under pressure. And it gives a sense of peace. And guess what happens? I respond well under pressure. That's exactly what happens. And that's one of mine that I find is really useful, is scripting your mind and scripting your thinking. And I do not let negativity pour out on the team. I will not do that. I've got a great team who works for me and works with me, actually. And it's very easy at times as the founder, when things really, a pressure comes on, is to explode or take out something on your team member. And I remember I had a couple of team members really blow it and cost me a lot of money. And I had other team members come to me and say, why were you so nice to them? Why didn't you yell at them? Why was that? Why didn't you go along and really dress them down? And I was like, okay, so let me understand what you're saying. What I'm going to do is yell at the people that are actually going to resolve the situation. Why would I do that? And they then said, you never did anything to go along and hold them to account. I said, what you don't understand is when I talk to them privately about a couple of days later after the event has passed. When we take a look at it and I work with them on how we can more positively move forward. And it's funny, people want to see you as the founder dress down another member of the staff because it makes them feel better. And I said, postpone the fact that it may make you feel better in the short term and realize that person you're working with is a precious individual who's actually really committed to what you're trying to achieve, say, in your business. And if you start tearing them to shreds, particularly publicly, you're not going to have them for much longer. Why would you do that? It makes no sense. But it doesn't mean you don't deal with issues. I find myself in my business, I wear a lot of things personally, and I'll take a lot of bullets from my team. And I think that's just the role that a founder needs to play. And being positive about that is the positive thing I can do for my team. And the fact that I'll take that bullet, I will go along, and they know that. I've got my chief revenue officer. He knows. He actually is an interesting guy. When he first came and joined us, I have this sort of little exercise I do with each person who may be joining my company or joining the team. And I say to them, in years gone by, there'd be ancient civilizations. They would quite often have a totem which represented the person. And that's where you get movies like Dances with Wolves or Stands with a Fist. And There'll be a totem will be an action, or it'll be an animal or an inanimate object and that sort of stuff. And I'd ask people, like, for instance, my wife's done this exercise, and she says she's a swan. She's calm and graceful, and she's very calm and graceful and paddling like mad underneath the water. But you know what? Swans can be very aggressive if you go along and start having to go at her sort of the swanlings, whatever, and that sort of stuff. So she can be like really tough. And so I said to my chief revenue officer to be, when I was talking with them, I said, "What are you?" And he said, "I'm a rhinoceros." And I can just be charged, point me in a direction and just charge away, and I'll just keep on going and that sort of stuff. But I'm a rhinoceros with scars. And that really spoke to me. It meant that he hadn't been treated well by other people, other organizations. And I said to him, "I'll make a commitment to you, and that I will not give you any more scars." And that was the most positive thing I probably could have said to him. I will not, because I listened to him. I really listened. And I said, "I will not give you any scars." And you know what? To this day, he knows that I will not give him any scars. I will not do that. And being positive is great for you, but also it spills out into your team. And really listening to your team, like really listen. And I know in the cut and thrust of business, sometimes, I fail at this as well. I wish I was perfect, but sadly, none of us are. But there's at times that you're not able to. You're not able to listen and give someone the time they really deserve and things like that. And my suggestion is go back, once again, as we talked about before, is go back to them a day or two later, whenever the time allows, apologize to them and say, I've got some time. Let me hear what you have to say. I need to really hear it. Wow. Positivity. It's an amazing thing. And so, do you have anything else to add on this as we begin to close up this room?
I'm pretty much done with it. I think it's been what a
Sorry,
horrible ending, right?
Sorry, Colin, you've got a.
I don't know why I said
I
it.
saw you had your yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize that you were still there.
I had a couple of phone calls come in here, and I said, "Oh, I'm pretty much done with it." What a horrible
Yeah.
ending to a good show. No, I'm going to say, what a great show. I learned a lot from you. I think simple words can make big differences in people's lives. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week on the Complete Auteur, next Thursday at 5:00. And tomorrow we have a pretty big speaker coming on tomorrow, really big speaker, actually. And he understands how to scale businesses. So we get into that show. We talk a little bit more about the formula of how to succeed in business. And that's what we're going to talk a bit more about tomorrow. But I like today's show because they're practical little things. Just a quick review, okay? We're going to replace but with what? Yes, and we're going to replace I have to with
I will.
I will, or I am happy to, right? Yeah. And we're going to
Yeah.
replace I'll try with I will. So you pass, you like 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right?
Yeah.
You got to understand, just those 3 words can change your life. But when,
It's amazingly simple. It's amazingly
is so
simple,
simple.
isn't it?
and it changes you
And
internally as well.
Yeah, and it will transform your team. And
Exactly.
my biggest thing is listen to your team and listen to your clients, listen to your
Like the
partners.
listening. That was a good one. That was a good piece
Yeah.
of review.
Yeah. Anyway,
And,
it's been great. And for those of you who haven't done so yet, go to Amazon, buy Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat.
And we talk a lot about power talk in
and-
the book.
Yeah, really just go and buy that. Go and get the book. And by the way, if you're thinking, well, I'm just trying to get some more sales for Colin, the answer is you're absolutely right. But besides that, it'll do so much good for you and your business when you read that book. It'll transform so much of your thinking. And so I highly recommend you go ahead and pick up Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. Just go to Amazon, just go and grab it.
And get on that email list at startup.club. We have almost 1 million
Yep.
members, but on our email list, it's, I don't know, getting close to 10,000. And we are, each month we do one newsletter, and it's a masterclass. It's coming out tomorrow at noon.
I look forward to
And
it.
the feature article is about power talking. Okay, so and it's a review of what we talked a lot about today in that newsletter. And then we break down a number of other articles. We do the time to sell index, which is an empirical measurement of the sentiment in the economy for startups. We have it all there, and just go check it out. Startup.club, www.startup.club. Sign up to the email list. We'll see you all next week.
Fantastic.
And
We'll see everyone at 5 p.m.
Thank you for coming online.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for all of you in the audience just here. You're the reason why we do this. So thank you for being there. And for all of you listening on podcast, it'd be great to go along and see you. Go to startup.club as well. Anyway, take care, everyone. See you next week, 5 p.m. on The Complete Entrepreneur next Thursday. God bless. Bye.